The Galactic Council laughed when the human ambassador asked for 1 minute of silence. Not openly, not loudly, just a ripple of amused gestures, flickering light patterns, clicking mandibles, low-frequency hums of superiority. To them, humanity was new, young, emotional, a species that still believed rules mattered more than power. No one in that chamber understood what that silence actually meant, because humans did not go quiet when they were weak. They went quiet when something inside them broke. The council chamber itself was a monument to age and authority. A vast crystalline dome hung in space above the galactic capital, refracting the light of 3 distant suns into shifting bands of color. Seats carved from living stone and energy fields formed concentric circles, rising higher and higher until they disappeared into the dome's glow. More than 200 species were represented: ancient empires, star-born collectives, warrior civilizations older than human history itself. And at the very bottom of the chamber, almost as an afterthought, stood the human delegation. 5 figures, dark suits, no armor, no ceremonial displays. Ambassador Sarachin stood at the central platform, hands folded behind her back, posture calm and composed. She looked small. That was not an accident. The towering Vorak warriors dominated the nearest tier, 9 feet tall, red-skinned, bone crests rising from their skulls like crowns carved by war. Their claws rested openly against their armor, a deliberate breach of diplomatic etiquette. Above them drifted the Etherean collective, beings of pure energy contained within shimmering fields. They had crossed the stars 10,000 years before humanity learned agriculture, and presiding over them all floated Speaker Valdris, ancient even by galactic standards. To Valdris, humans were clever animals who had learned how to use tools, and little else. The Council recognized as Commander Thrak of the Vorak Empire, Valdris announced. The Vorak commander rose slowly. Every movement was deliberate. Every scar on his skin told a story of conquest. His species had built their empire through blood and honor. They respected strength and nothing else. Honor, Council. Thraka's voice boomed, amplified by the chamber itself. The Vorak Empire brings a grievance. Holographic star maps flared into existence above the floor. 17 systems glowed in cold blue light. These regions, Thrak continued, have been protected by Vorak fleets for over 8 centuries. We fought pirates, raiders, pretenders. His bone crest flared, and now the humans claim ownership because they filed paperwork. The chamber stirred. Approval rippled outward, clicks, vibrations, color shifts. The Krex elders signaled agreement. The Zak Hive buzzed in synchronized approval. Even neutral species leaned toward the Vorak position. Humanity had joined the Council only 50 years ago. 50 years was nothing. Ambassador Chen stepped forward. May the human delegation respond? Speaker Valdris pulsed faintly, amused. The Council recognizes the humans. Chen lifted her gaze, meeting hundreds of alien eyes without flinching. The systems in question were listed as unclaimed under galactic law, she said calmly. Earth followed all required procedures. Surveys were conducted. Claims were registered. Everything was done according to the rules this council enforces. Thraka's claws scraped against stone. Rules, he snarled. You speak of rules while ignoring Vorak blood spilled across those stars. His gaze locked onto Chun. What does a young species know of honor? The insult landed exactly where it was meant to. Chun felt it, cold, sharp, familiar. She had heard versions of it for 12 years. She had smiled while ancient species lectured humanity about real warfare. She had listened while civilizations that had never faced extinction explained restraint. This time, she did not smile. We know enough, Chen replied, to follow the laws we agreed to when we joined this council. Her voice hardened. If the Vorak Empire wanted those systems, they had 800 years to file a claim. The chamber erupted. Shouts, roars, threat displays. Several Vorak warriors stood as one, claws fully extended. Thrak did not bother restoring decorum. The Vorak Empire issues an ultimatum, he declared. The chamber fell silent. Within 30 standard days, Humanity will withdraw all claims to the disputed systems. You will pay compensation for the insult to Vorak honor, and you will acknowledge what you are. He leaned forward, a junior species. Ambassador Chin did not raise her voice. Earth rejects your ultimatum. The words echoed far louder than she intended. We will not surrender lawful claims because someone threatens us. Thraka's bone crest flared violently. Then you will learn what happens when young species forget their place. Speaker Valdris descended slightly, energy flickering with concern. Commander Thrak, he warned, the Council strongly advises against. Your advice is noted, Thrak interrupted, and ignored. He turned back to Chun. 30 days, human. Withdraw or suffer the consequences. The Vorak delegation left the chamber without waiting for dismissal. Their footsteps echoed long after they were gone. Speaker Valdris floated closer to the human delegation. Ambassador Chun, he said gently, perhaps compromise would be wise. Chun met his ancient gaze. With respect, Speaker, she replied, if Earth backs down today, we teach the galaxy a lesson we cannot afford. She paused. That humans can be threatened. For the first time, several delegates looked uneasy. The session adjourned shortly after. No resolution. No peace. Only the quiet understanding that something irreversible had begun. That night, in Earth's modest embassy, Chin sent a single encrypted message home. It contained no threats, no demands, only facts, and one recommendation. Prepare, because the galaxy believed this was just a territorial dispute. Earth knew it was a test, and humanity had never survived by failing tests. The first Vorak strikes were not meant to be cruel. They were meant to be educational. From orbit above the human colony of New Geneva, Vorak warships settled into precise formation, their weapon systems powered up with flawless discipline, targeting only military and industrial installations. Commander Thrak watched the tactical displays in silence. This was how civilized war was fought. Clean, controlled, limited. Begin demonstration strikes, he ordered. Blue-white plasma lanced down from a void. The colony's small orbital defense station vanished in a flash of light. A military outpost folded inward, as if crushed by an invisible fist. Factories became glowing craters. Each strike was measured, each casualty calculated. This was a lesson, not a massacre. On the surface, Governor Martinez stood inside the colony's emergency command center, gripping the edge of a metal console as alarms wailed around him. We're broadcasting surrender signals. An officer shouted, all frequencies. They're not responding. Martinez swallowed hard. Evacuate civilians, he ordered. Move families out of population centers. Now. New Geneva had never known war. Children were rushed from schools. Hospitals activated emergency protocols. Parents held on to their sons and daughters a little tighter than usual, confused, frightened, but trusting. The Vorak had promised precision. The galaxy had always promised that civilians were safe. In orbit, Thraka's tactical officer leaned closer to his display. Commander, we're detecting a minor targeting drift on Plasma Battery 3. Thrak frowned. How minor? 3 degrees, the officer replied. A calibration error. It should self-correct. Thrak hesitated. 3 degrees was nothing. A fluctuation so small it occurred millions of times across the galaxy every day. Proceed, he said at last. The plasma beam fired. It was meant to strike a communications relay on the city's eastern edge. Instead, it shifted, just slightly, 3 degrees. The beam cut through atmosphere and stone in less than a second and struck New Geneva Children's Hospital. There was no explosion, no warning. One moment the building stood, bright windows, painted murals, voices echoing through its halls. The next moment, it didn't exist. The hospital was vaporized instantly, reduced to a crater of molten glass and twisted metal. Inside were 847 children, sleeping, laughing, being treated for minor injuries and illnesses. Gone. The command deck aboard Thraka's flagship went silent. No cheers, no confirmation tones, just a blinking error code. The tactical officer's claws trembled as he ran diagnostics again and again. "Commander," he whispered, "we hit a civilian medical facility, a pediatric center." Thrak stared at the display. For the first time in centuries of warfare, he felt something unfamiliar crawl into his chest. Cold, heavy. "Cease fire," he ordered immediately. "All ships, cease fire." He opened an emergency channel to the surface. Governor Martinez's face appeared on the screen, ashen, eyes unfocused. "You destroyed the children's hospital," Martinez said quietly. Thrak bowed his head. "Governor, this was not intentional. A targeting malfunction. We accept full responsibility. We offer immediate aid, reparations, anything required under galactic law." Martinez did not shout. He did not argue. He simply ended the transmission. Within hours, the images spread across human space. The crater where a hospital had stood. Toys fused into glass. Names scrolling endlessly across screens. 847. Ambassador. Chen received the casualty list alone in her office. She read every name. She did not cry. When she finished, she activated a secure line. Then another. Then another. Each conversation was short, quiet, identical. "The children are dead," she said every time. "We are done talking." The Galactic Council moved quickly. Emergency session. Formal apologies. Public statements of regret. Commander Thrak took full responsibility before the entire galaxy. Reparations were offered. Aid ships were dispatched. By every law the Council recognized, the matter was closed. A tragedy, an accident. Humanity was expected to grieve, and then forgive. Instead, humanity went silent. For 3 days, no human official spoke. Earth's embassy closed its doors. Human colonies stopped transmitting public traffic. No outrage, no demands, nothing. The silence spread unease through the council chamber. Species who had lived for millennia felt in their instincts. Silence was not peace. Silence was waiting. On the 4th day, Ambassador Chen returned to the chamber. She looked smaller than before, paler. Grief clung to her like a shadow. "The government of Earth accepts the Vorak Empire's apology," she said softly. "We acknowledge that the deaths were unintentional." Relief rippled through the chamber. The crisis was over. Then Chen continued. "Earth withdraws all territorial claims to the disputed systems. We will sign any peace treaty the Vorak Empire desires." Speaker Valdris pulsed with satisfaction. "Wisdom," he declared. "Young, but wise." Chen nodded. "We are a young species," she said. "We still have much to learn." She paused. "There is one request." The chamber leaned in. "We ask for 30 days to build a memorial for our children before the final accords are signed." The request was granted immediately. Every species understood mourning. No one asked what kind of memorial Earth intended to build. As Chen left the chamber, none of them noticed a message already moving through human space. No speeches, no warnings, just a single phrase stamped across classified channels. For 3 days, the galaxy waited for humanity to scream. It never happened. There were no angry broadcasts from Earth, no threats, no speeches filled with grief and rage. Human space went quiet, too quiet, on the surface. It looked like shock, trauma, a young species overwhelmed by loss. That was the story the Galactic Council chose to believe. On Earth, memorial services were broadcast continuously. Candles, names read aloud, parents holding photographs of children who would never grow older. Human news anchors spoke softly about peace, restraint, and the tragedy of war. The official military posture remained unchanged. No fleets mobilized, no weapons tests, no emergency declarations. To the galaxy, it looked like surrender. Speaker Valdris floated at the center of a closed council session, addressing the delegates with measured calm. "The humans have chosen wisdom," he announced. "They understand the cost of escalation." Several species signaled agreement. The Ephedrins pulsed approval. The Krex elders clicked thoughtfully. Only a few noticed something was off. Human silence did not feel like defeat. It felt deliberate. Commander Thrak was recalled to the Vorak homeworld of Korath to face a formal inquiry. He knelt before the Vorak War Council. 7 ancient warriors, scarred by centuries of conquest. The incident was a failure of equipment, Thrak said. I accept full responsibility. War leader Dramor studied him for a long moment. You have brought shame, Dramor said slowly, but not dishonor. Thrak lowered his head. The humans have accepted our apology, Dramor continued. They withdrew their claims. They requested only a memorial. A pause. An emotional species, Dramor concluded. They grieve loudly, then they move on. The War Council agreed. The matter was considered closed. On Earth, the silence deepened. Embassies stopped responding to council inquiries. Human diplomats declined invitations. Military attaches vanished from public view. Behind the scenes, something else was happening, but the galaxy did not see it. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, lights turned on in chambers that had been dark for 50 years. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood before a wall of dormant screens. Status, he said. Colonel Sarah Kim didn't look up from her console. All civilian manufacturing contracts suspended, she reported. Defense retooling has begun worldwide. Screens flickered to life. Shipyards, once converted into cargo docks, reopened sealed sections. Civilian factories quietly switched production lines. Retired engineers received encrypted recall orders. Project Deep Strike? Rodriguez asked. Kim hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. 1,800 vessels ready for activation, she said. Another 3,000 within 6 months. The room went silent. Humanity had spent 50 years pretending to disarm. In reality, it had been hibernating. What about the colonies? Rodriguez asked. Non-essential civilians are evacuating, Kim replied. Mining equipment is being relocated. Agricultural worlds are stockpiling supplies. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Good. He didn't say why. He didn't have to. Back on Korath, Commander Thrak sat alone in his quarters, writing his final report. He replayed the images from New Geneva again and again. The crater, the hospital, the number, 847. The Vorak were warriors, but they were not monsters. The death of younglings violated something older than law, something instinctual. A chime interrupted his thoughts. Commander, his aide said, bowing, the human ambassador requests a private meeting. Thrak frowned. So soon, she says Earth wishes to discuss memorial arrangements to ensure cultural sensitivities are respected. Thrak considered this. It sounded reasonable. Schedule it, he said, and inform Ambassador Chen that I will answer any questions she has. He did not realize this would be the last report he ever filed. Across the galaxy, the council relaxed. Trade routes reopened. Diplomatic traffic resumed. The crisis was labeled resolved in official records. The galaxy congratulated itself. Once again, rules had worked. Apologies had mattered. War had been avoided. They never noticed the missing signals. The silent shipyards. The sudden absence of human special forces from known deployments. Because humans were still mourning. That was a lie everyone agreed on. On the 4th night after the silence began, a single encrypted order was transmitted across human space. It contained no explanation, no justification, just 2 words. For 50 years, the galaxy had believed the same lie, that humanity had chosen peace, that Earth had grown civilized, that humans had traded warships for trade agreements. They were half right. Humans had chosen peace. They had just never trusted it. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, screens glowed with data most of humanity had forgotten existed. Admiral Marcus Rodriguez stood motionless as classified reports streamed past him. He was 63 years old, a veteran of wars the Galactic Council never bothered to study. Wars fought before humanity learned that smiles work better than threats. Begin full activation, Rodriguez said quietly. Around him, officers straightened, not with excitement, but with grim familiarity. This was not panic. This was routine. Colonel Sarah Kim pulled up the deepest classified files on the network. Defense treaties signed after Council admission are officially intact, she said. Unofficially, every clause has a contingency. Images appeared. Hidden shipyards buried inside asteroids. Factories sealed behind civilian corporations. Research labs labeled as medical facilities. Earth never disarmed, Kim continued. We just stopped showing our teeth. Rodriguez nodded. Because predators don't advertise. The galaxy judged military power by visible fleets. Humans judge survival by redundancy. If one factory fell, 10 others replaced it. If one fleet was destroyed, 5 more activated. Every civilian industry had a shadow purpose. Every peaceful invention had a violent twin. Humanity had learned this lesson long before spaceflight. What about weapons capacity? Rodriguez asked. Kim hesitated, then expanded the display. Antimatter stockpiles, neutron devices, planetary denial systems. Enough warheads, she said carefully, to sterilize every Vorak world simultaneously. Silence filled the room. Not awe, acceptance. Rodriguez stared at the numbers. Good, he said. Then we don't have to choose. On paper, the Vorak Empire was unstoppable. 12 battle fleets, over 3,000 warships, centuries of experience. On paper. But humans did not plan wars on paper. They planned wars assuming everything would go wrong. What does Vorak intelligence think of us? Rodriguez asked. Kim almost smiled. They rate humanity as a minimal military threat, she said. Emotionally unstable, politically divided, militarily underdeveloped. Rodriguez exhaled slowly. They studied us the way prey studies weather, he said. They never asked what hunts storms. Across human space, the real military woke up. Retired admirals returned without question. Scientists abandoned peaceful research mid-sentence. Special operations teams disappeared into deep space aboard ships that did not officially exist. Human media showed none of it. Broadcasts focused on grief, on memorials, on calls for unity and peace. The galaxy watched and relaxed. Back on Korath, War Leader Dramor addressed the Vorak High Command. The humans have withdrawn, he said. They are mourning. Several commanders nodded. Let them, one said dismissively. They are young. This will pass. Only Commander Thrak remained silent. He remembered Ambassador Chen's eyes. Not angry, not broken, focused. 3 days later, Chen arrived at the Vorak embassy on Kepler Station. She came alone. No guards, no aides, just a simple black dress, the color of morning on Earth. Thrak met her privately. Up close, his bone crests were dull. Shame. I accept full responsibility, he said immediately. If my life could undo what happened, I would give it. Chen studied him carefully. I believe you, she said. Relief flickered across his features. But intent, she continued, does not resurrect children. Something in her voice changed. Not louder, colder. She activated a small holographic projector. The hospital appeared as it once was. Children playing, parents watching. Then the image shifted. A crater. 847 names scrolled slowly through the air. The youngest was 2, Chen said. The oldest 16. Thrak looked away. We offered reparations, he said quietly. Chen nodded. Yes. She changed the image again. Earth, burning cities, marching armies, mass graves. This, she said softly, is how humans learn to fight. Thrak felt his instincts scream. Chen was unarmed. And yet, danger filled the room. You fight wars to win, she said. We fight wars to make sure they never happen again. She shut off the projector. Our memorial, she said, standing, is not stone. She moved toward the door, then paused. It's certainty. Thrak opened his mouth to speak. She was already gone. That night, Thrak filed his report. Humans remain committed to peace, he wrote. He never sent another. Across the galaxy, something shifted. Sacred treaties failed to update. Communications lagged. Navigation beacons blinked, then went dark. Human infiltration teams were already in position, watching, waiting. In Cheyenne Mountain, Rodriguez stared at the operational map. Operation Memorial, he said. Colonel Kim swallowed. Sir, once we begin, there's no reversing this. Rodriguez thought of New Geneva. 847 empty beds. Good, he replied. Memorials aren't meant to be temporary. The first human strike did not target a fleet. It did not target a factory. It did not target a weapon. That was the galaxy's first mistake in understanding what was happening. The sacred world of Coraval had never known war. For 1,500 years, it had been the spiritual heart of the Vorak Empire, a place of temples and libraries, of monuments carved with the names of ancient heroes. Young warriors came here to learn history. Elders came to remember who they were. There were no shipyards, no weapons, no defenses. It was protected by tradition. That meant nothing to humans. High Priest Urak was midway through morning rites when the sky changed. Not the slow drift of clouds or the soft glow of distant stars. Fire. White-hot streaks tore through the upper atmosphere at impossible speed. The crystal dome above the temple began to fracture, rainbow cracks spreading across its surface. What is happening? A young acolyte whispered. Urak tried to activate planetary communications. Static. Orbital channels were dead. Emergency frequencies jammed. Then the ground shook, not from one impact, but from many. Across Coraval, sites older than human civilization vanished in silence. The Hall of Ancestors, the Monument Gardens, the Archive of War Philosophy. Each was erased with surgical precision. No warning, no explanation. The final strike came straight down through the Great Temple. Urak looked up just long enough to see it. A single object, falling faster than thought. The antimatter warhead detonated. The temple ceased to exist. When the light faded, there was only a crater 3 miles wide and nothing inside it. Within 6 hours, 18 Vorak sacred worlds were gone. Not damaged, erased. 2,000 years of history, reduced to radioactive glass. War leader Dramor received the reports in stunned silence. No military targets engaged, his intelligence officer said. No fleet movements detected. Dramor's claws scraped against his command chair. What are they attacking? He demanded. The officer hesitated. They are destroying meaning, identity, everything our people revere. The truth settled like ice in Dramor's chest. This wasn't war. This was punishment. Then the message arrived. No image, no voice, just text, written in perfect Vorak script. You killed 847 of our children. We have destroyed 847 of your sacred sites. This is just the beginning. Asterisk, asterisk. The transmission ended. Panic spread through Vorak space. Not fear of death, fear of loss. Fleet scrambled, but found nothing to fight. Defenses powered up, but detected no threats. Human ships were invisible, and everywhere at once. Phase 2 began before the Vorak could even respond. On the military world of Gark, night fell as normal. Nothing seemed out of place. That's why no alarm sounded. Captain Maria Santos led her team through underground access tunnels beneath the Vorak Naval Academy. 12 human operators. Silent, unseen, charges placed. A voice whispered over comms. The academy above them was a pride of the Vorak military. 8 centuries of officers trained within its walls. Human doctrine had a simple rule. If you want to end a war forever, destroy the next generation first. Execute, came the order. There was no explosion, no fire. Neutron devices activated simultaneously. They killed only living things. When the sun rose, the academy still stood. Lights on, systems running. Inside, everyone was dead. Thousands of cadets, instructors, strategists. The future of Vorak, command gone in silence. The same thing happened everywhere. Military schools, officer academies, strategic training centers. Human teams struck, vanished, moved on. The Vorak military was not destroyed. It was hollowed out. In Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Rodriguez watched the report scroll in. Phase 2 complete, Colonel Kim said. Vorak training capacity reduced by 97%. Rodriguez closed his eyes briefly. Good, he said. They won't recover in our lifetime. Kim hesitated. Phase 3 is ready. This one was different. This one crossed a line. Rodriguez thought of New Geneva. 847 small coffins. Begin Phase 3, ordered. Human battle fleets emerged from deep space around a Vorak homeworld. Not the small ships the Council knew. These were massive vessels, built in secret, armed beyond galactic standards. War leader Dramor stared at the censored data in disbelief. Open communications, he ordered. The human flagship responded instantly. Admiral Lisa Chin appeared on screen. You have destroyed our culture, Dramor said. You threaten civilians. This violates every law. You seem confused, Chin interrupted calmly. We are not fighting a civilized war. Her eyes were steady. This is total war. Vorak fleets attempted interception. They never stood a chance. Human ships moved like predators. Faster, smarter, merciless. Within 2 hours, the Vorak home fleet was space debris. Chin opened comms again. You have a choice, she said. Evacuate your civilians and surrender, or watch us end this. Dramor's voice broke. You've won. The Vorak Empire, Chin replied, no longer exists. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Empires fell silent. Ancient species reevaluated everything they believed. Humans did not fight to conquer. They fought to erase threats permanently. And Operation Memorial was not finished yet. The Galactic Council chamber had never been silent like this. 200 species sat frozen beneath the crystal dome, their translators idle, their gestures stilled. The chamber that once buzzed with endless debate now felt like a tomb. Speaker Valdris floated at the center. His energy formed dimmer than it had ever been. In 3,000 years, he had watched empires rise, fracture, and fade. He had never watched one vanish. Reports streamed across the chamber's displays. The Vorak home fleet, destroyed. Sacred worlds, erased. Military academies, empty. A civilization reduced to refugees in less than 72 hours. This was not conquest. This was removal. Elder Kais of the Krex broke the silence at last. How is this possible, he rumbled. Our intelligence rated humanity as weak. No one answered. They were all recalculating now. Not fleets, not weapons, assumptions. Ambassador Sarah Chen rose from the human delegation. She walked to the platform alone. She looked exactly as she had before, small, composed, human. That frightened them more than the fleets. You want to know why the Vorak Empire no longer exists? Chen said evenly. The answer is simple. She paused. They killed our children. A ripple moved through the chamber. But it was an accident, protested Counselor Vexthai. Reparations were offered under galactic law. Galactic law, Chen interrupted calmly, was written by species who have never faced extinction. She let her gaze travel across the room. Species who believe war has limits, who believe violence can be controlled, who believe children are sometimes acceptable casualties. Her voice hardened. Humans learn differently. A holographic display activated. Images of Earth's history appeared. Cities burning, mass graves, evacuations under fire. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Chin continued. When someone threatened our young, we didn't negotiate. The images changed. We ended the threat. Elder Kais leaned forward. You destroyed an entire civilization. Chin met his gaze. No, she said. We destroyed their future. The chamber stirred uneasily. We did not target Vorak civilians. Chin went on. We did not commit mass slaughter. We removed their ability to threaten anyone forever. She gestured, and images of Vorak refugees filled the displays. They will live. They will remember. And they will never again raise a weapon against children. Silence followed. Not disagreement. Understanding. Speaker Valdris floated closer. Ambassador Chun, he said carefully, such power cannot exist without limits. Chin nodded. Agreed. A new document appeared across every screen. The Vorak Accords. Gasps rippled through the chamber as delegates read. Absolute protection of human civilians. Immediate total war authorization for any harm to human children. Human veto authority over council military actions. And then the fourth article, mutual defense. Any species under human protection, Chin said, will receive full military support against aggression. The implications settle like a weight, protection, or isolation. This is coercion, Counselor Vexthai said weakly. No, Chin replied. This is clarity. She leaned forward slightly. You now know the rules. The vote came quickly, not because there was consensus, because there was fear. One by one, ancient civilizations cast their votes. Accept, accept, accept. When the tally finished, Speaker Valdris spoke with a voice that carried exhaustion and resignation. The Vorak Accords pass, he announced, by overwhelming majority. The age of equals was over. Chin returned to the platform one final time. From this moment forward, she said, any attack on a species under human protection will be considered an attack on humanity itself. Star maps shifted. Human fleets moved into position around vulnerable worlds. Our response, Chin continued, will be swift, decisive, and final. She paused. But understand this. We do not seek domination. A beat, we seek certainty. A memorial wall materialized at the chamber's edge. 847 names, carved in stone. Children, the chamber stared. This, Chin said softly, is why the galaxy changed. She turned to leave. At the threshold, she looked back one last time. Humans do not build statues for their dead, she said. We build futures where it never happens again. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. Pirates vanished. Border wars ended overnight. Civilian casualties dropped to near zero. Every species understood the same truth. Human children were inviolable. Species under human protection were safe. And anyone who threatened either would face a fate worse than death. Erasure. The Vorak refugees scattered among the stars, living reminders of a lesson written in silence and fire. Their children grew up speaking other languages, knowing their empire only as history. That was humanity's mercy. They let them live. At the center of the Galactic Council chamber, the memorial wall remained. 847 names. A warning, a promise. The galaxy had learned what humans truly were. Not conquerors, not tyrants. Guardians who never forgave harm to the innocent. And for the first time in galactic history, every child slept safely, not because of laws, not because of treaties, but because somewhere in the dark, humanity was watching,